Hello, welcome to another video, and I'm in Ilford, London today, and I'm in a special place. I'm actually in a cemetery. It's special not because it's a cemetery, because the ones who are buried here are not human. I know that sounds a bit scary, but actually it's because the ones who are buried here are animals. So some of you might be thinking, okay, so you are in a pet cemetery. Kind of. This is actually a pet cemetery. There are pets buried here, and also there are some special animals who have been buried here. Animals who have won medals for their service to humans while they were alive. So there are some pretty interesting stories about some of them. So I'm gonna go and find the headstones or the burial places of them and talk about the history behind them. So one of the famous animals buried here is a cat named Simon. He's also known as Simon the Able sea cat. City cat? No, not a city cat. Sea cat. So how did a cat come to be known as a sea cat? So before we go into that, actually, let me show you his final resting place. So this is where Simon was buried, and that's what Simon used to look like. So as you can see here, it says he served on the HMS Amethyst from May 1948 to November 1949. So HMS, oops, sorry, let me get my bearings right. Yeah. So HMS Amethyst was a warship that was sent by the British government to China to this was after the Second World War, to help with some of the unrest that was coming up in the country. So while the ship was, well, actually let me take a step back. While the ship was going there, they make a stop in Hong Kong, and during this stop, one of the sailors sees a kitten who's malnourished and who's sick. So he smuggles him on board, names him Simon, and nurses it back to health. So Simon becomes a pet of all the sailors on board, and not only just all the sailors, even he becomes the favorite pet of the ship's captain. And so Simon starts sleeping in the captain's cabin and in the captain's hat most of the time. And so the ship starts to sail to China, and while the ship is on the Yangtze River, the ship comes under attack. The first attack actually, or the first shot, tears through the captain's cabin and it kills the captain. And not only that, it injures Simon as well. It also kills a lot of sailors, and then the ship is badly damaged, and the ship comes under siege. And so the ship can't go anywhere. The sailors are stuck, and to add to their worries, they also and the ship is stuck there for nearly 100 days, just over 100 days. So during this time, a rat infestation breaks out in the ship. So the soldiers are running out of their food and water. So the food and water is rationed, and on top of that, they have rats running around spreading disease and also destroying their food. So somehow Simon, who was injured in that first attack, he gets cured, and then he gets to work. So what does he do? He starts catching mice. He's a cat, obviously, but he catches hundreds of mice every single day. By doing that, he helps with two main things. One is he helps to protect those food and water that was really scarce, and also he stops the spread of diseases on board, which helps the sailors to somehow survive through that siege and escape from that situation and come back to England. So that is why Simon was awarded this Dickin medal, which is awarded to animals for their service. And Simon is the only cat who has been awarded that. Now, if you're a cat lover, you might wonder, well, why haven't many more cats been awarded that? Well, they're cat. Anyway, so here's the other part. So when Simon, or when the ship came back to England, Simon actually catches a virus and he falls sick. And obviously he was injured before, so his heart wasn't really strong, so he does not actually survive that. So while in quarantine, Simon dies, and he comes to be buried here with honors. So that is how Simon came to this cemetery, and this place became his final resting place. And so I said he's the only cat to receive this medal. And not only cats, and we know that dogs help out in various situations. But it is also interesting that not only dogs, there is another kind of animal that has helped humans during the Second World War. And there is one such animal, or actually a bird, who's buried here, whose story is really interesting, and that is Mary of Exeter. Mary was actually a pigeon. So Mary was part of the National Pigeon Service during World War II. Yeah, so during World War II, they used pigeons to send messages from the Allied forces to from the Allied forces in the UK to the forces in other countries. So Mary was one such pigeon, and she actually did 4 missions to France. And in those 4 missions, 3 times she came back injured. The first time she was attacked by hawks, because the Germans kept birds of prey to deter these pigeons who were carrying messages. So the first time she was attacked by a hawk, she came back injured. She was not nursed back to health, and she got back into delivering messages. So the second time she went, she was shot. So she came back with the tip of one of her wings missing. Miraculously, again, she somehow recovered and was put back into service, and she was sent there again. And then the third time when she came back, she was shot, and she had shrapnel in her body, and also her neck was badly hurt. So actually the owner had to create a leather collar to keep her neck from falling down. So after that, I think she did one more round, and she also came to be buried here. And this is the final resting place of Mary. It's quite interesting, and Mary is also she has been awarded the Dickin medal for outstanding war service. It's quite amazing how these animals have helped us during the times of need. So while this is home to many animals who've been awarded this Dickin medal, this is also a pet cemetery, so you can actually see lots of other graves or headstones that have been created for various different family pets who have been buried here. So now I'm actually in search of the final resting place of a dog who became famous during famous for what he did during World War II. Aha, there it is. So that is Rip. So this is the final resting place of Rip, a dog who was found during one of the bombing, or after one of the bombing raids in London. So one of the wardens who was going on a search and rescue mission sees this dog, and he gives him some food, and he becomes his friend. And while he's going around searching for people who are stuck under the rubble, Rip also follows him, and he starts doing that after every bombing raid with him. He was never actually trained as a search and rescue dog, but he starts going with this warden after bombing raids to search and rescue people, and he's single-handedly responsible for finding hundreds of people who were stuck under the rubble and rescuing them. So that is why he was, when he died, he was he was awarded the medal before he died, and he used to wear that on his collar. So RIP Mary of Exeter and Simon the Able Sea Cat are three of some of the Dickin medal awardees who are buried here. There are several more animals as well. They have all done extraordinary things, and there are some really extraordinary stories about them. And this cemetery is maintained by PDSA. It's a charity called People's Dispensary for Sick Animals. So and it is located in Ilford, London. So I'm not sure whether how much this cemetery is being used right now. I don't think this is now being actively used to bury pets, because if you look at these headstones, most of them are quite old. So this is 1962, and let's see, this one, that's 1962 again. Grey Boy, Alsatian, 1962. So lots of dogs have been buried here, and there's a cat as well. It's quite a nice headstone. That's 1965 and 1967. So yeah, quite old. And yeah, you can see a lot of headstones for dogs. As a, hold on, let me adjust the camera, I think. Right, okay. So as a dog lover myself, sometimes I wish dogs actually lived as long as humans. I've had a few dogs in the past, and there's nothing worse than you know, them living with you for 10, 11, 12, 13 years and then suddenly passing away. And most of these headstones are, yeah, when you look at them, you can see they're quite old. And not only that, as I said, there are some really creative ones. So there's one here, Rex, and here's another one. This is quite nice. There are some really elaborate ones, and there are two here which look exactly the same. So this one, the first one is for Denny, the cat, and this one is for Tibby. Can't really make out whether it was a cat or a dog. I suspect it was a cat. Oh no, sorry, it was a dog. So maybe both of them actually lived in the same house. Hold on a second. What? Okay. It was a different time then. So coming to a place like this and looking at those headstones, especially the headstones of those animals that I mentioned during the video, and learning the history behind them and learning their stories, and understanding why they were awarded those medals was quite interesting, at least for me. So hope you found that interesting too. Thank you for watching. I'll see you soon.